From Homedale to Salmon River, District 3 has several teams that don't always get their due. Stepping outside the shadows of the SIC, this is the Treasure Valley Prepcast with Logan Green.
That's right. It's another edition of the Treasure Valley Prepcast here on idahosports.com, where we're talking about all the 3A, 2A, 1A stuff you need to know for District 3. I'm Brandon Baney, joined by Logan Green. Logan, how was your Labor Day weekend?
It was great. We visited some family over in Washington, and was a nice weekend. It's every time I go over there to Western Washington and then come back, it's like you get slapped in the face with the heat, especially if you do it in summer or early fall like we did, and it's nice and cool over there, and then it's nice and it just feels like a blow dryer getting blown in your face or something like that. So, but always good to be back home. But it was a good weekend. How was yours, Brandon?
Yeah, it was good. It's funny, when you go somewhere that's cooler and then you come back and you open the door to your car, it's like you're opening the oven door for the first time.
Yeah, seriously, yes.
Your face. Yeah, for sure. Did you go up the Oregon coast and into Western Washington that way?
No, we go up through Tri-Cities and cut across that way.
Okay.
So you go up to Hermiston, cut up Tri-Cities across through Yakima and all that. So it was great. So we did it Thursday night. We left late Thursday night, and I just put in some earbuds. I listened to Wayne's game that he did on Thursday night. So that was great. Listened to that on the road. And then I listened to some NC State football, and then topped it off with the BSU game. So it was just, I didn't complain. It was the best drive of my life. It just had 3 different football games in my ear the whole time. I'll do that drive any day when I can do that. Just 7 hours of football. You can't complain.
Yeah, it's not a bad way to go. Trivia time. Can you name the 3 Tri-Cities in Washington?
Kennewick, Pasco. What's the other one? Richland.
Oh yeah. Okay. Ding, ding,
my brother-in-law, they used to live there. They lived in Tri-Cities and then moved up, and he works in Coeur d'Alene, or used to work. They live right there in Liberty Lake, right across the border from from Post Falls. But they used to live there, and then they moved up there. So I have been to the Tri-Cities a couple times on their own, just on their own.
Yeah, I had to go when I was in high school. My younger brother played All-Stars baseball, and his team won the state championship in Montana and got to go to regionals, and it was in Kennewick, actually. And so it was in the middle of the summer, right on the same weekend as they do their big annual boat race or whatever it is.
Okay.
That they do there. So it was crazy. It was jam-packed in Kennewick.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
seems like a nice place from a few times I've been there.
Yeah.
So, kind of just isolated though.
Yeah, it is. It is kind of, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, let's bring it back into Idaho.
Let's bring it back over the border.
what's going on here in the Gem State? I feel like it would be so cliche for us to start the Prepcast with football, right? We always lead off with football.
Yeah.
Let's start with let's do some volleyball first, Logan. What's really been standing out to you in the volleyball ranks?
Yeah, I mean we've talked about it the last couple of weeks. Again, Horseshoe Bend still undefeated. Still looking good. I think we've talked about it multiple times that maybe they're the team to look out for there in 1A Division II, and I don't think anything's changed in that regard. I think it's still the Mustangs to lose at this point. And Wayne says this. He's like, until you can knock off the one at the top, they're still at the top. So I think you got to respect Tri-Valley still up there. And I mean I think they've only lost 1 game, something like that. So really, it's not like Tri-Valley has fallen off the ranks at all. So I think they still need to earn that spot by beating Tri-Valley, but they're looking really good right out of the gates. And then 2 teams in the 3A looking really good in SRV. Fruitland 7-1 and Parma 6-1 right now. So both of those 2 teams looking extremely strong. You got to watch out. They're really the class of that 3A SRV, and really just starting to pull away a little separation right there as we start to get into conference play already in volleyball. Little separation starting to occur with those 2 teams, kind of breaking away from the pack already.
Yeah, Parma went over to Pocatello last weekend to compete in the Peg Peterson tournament at Highland, and they won the bronze bracket in bracket
Yeah.
play. So it was pretty
And
impressive.
that,
And
I
then,
mean, it's always a huge when you can go and play people that aren't in your conference that you aren't familiar with. Just gives you a good footing for when it comes to B-State tournament time. And there must be some Parma girls athletics. They're really good. You know, their volleyball is always good. Basketball team is. When are they not in the state tournament? It's just basketball and volleyball, great sports for Parma over there.
yeah, for sure. So yeah, Fruitland ranked second in the latest volleyball coaches poll for 3A. And how about this? The 1A D2 poll has 3 teams from the Treasure Valley in the top 5, technically top 6 because there was a tie for 5th. But you've got Horseshoe Bend ranked number 1, Tri-Valley ranked number 3, and how about Council ranked 4th with an old familiar face coaching them, Coach Tucker, who made the move from Salmon River over to Council.
Yeah, so that's going to be a strong conference when you've got 3 of the top 6, we'll say 6 teams in the state. 50% of that poll are right here, you know, right up Highway 95 from each other. Well, I guess around for Horseshoe Bend, I guess Highway 55. But yeah, just very strong. A lot of good volleyball being played. Whatever camps they're doing in the Treasure Valley in the summer must be working for some of those teams. They wherever there's those girls are going is working.
Yep, for sure. What about soccer? What's standing out to you, boys and girls soccer?
Yeah, so I think we've hit on it so much, Weiser, but you know, in our district, we only have one level to talk about for boys and girls. We only have 3A boys soccer and girls soccer, but they, you know, their toughest test is McCall. McCall won the conference last year, and they Weiser beat them 4-2 this week. They have a big game coming up. We talked about it when we had the coach on, but they play Sun Valley Community School this Saturday. So a big matchup upcoming for that. That'll be a great game. That should be really good. It might even be a preview of the state championship. It has been the past 2 years, so why would it not be a potential preview for this year?
Yeah.
And then on the girls' side, Fruitland is on a tear right now. Over the last week-ish, they've won games 6-2 over Ontario, 10-1 over Payette, 9-1 over Nissa, and then 8-1 over Weiser. And in those games, Abby, I'm going to butcher her last name, Robideau, I think. O-U-X is O, I believe. Robideau. Abby, please call us if I'm wrong. It's Logan@idahosports.com. Please tell me if I'm wrong. But she has 5 goals in that game against Weiser. 5 goals and an assist. And she has 16 goals in those last couple games. 16 goals and 5 assists. Is there anybody out there in the state? Please tell me. Somebody let us know if somebody has 16 goals in girls soccer so far. Do you know of any off the top of your head, Brandon?
I would have to check with Coeur d'Alene Charter up north. And
they score a lot of goals.
Man, every game is like 12-0, 15-0. But
yeah, they run through it. But so if anybody out there has more than 12, or more than 16, feel free to let us know and we'll give them credit. But right now, Abby Robideau just tearing it up right now. I mean, a 5-goal game. There's some teams that won't score 5 goals this season, and she does it in the afternoon against Weiser. It's just crazy. Yeah. So what a great effort by her this week, and she deserves some recognition for that great week.
Yeah, that's an outstanding week. It'll be interesting to see how she tops that. But that's so exciting. I love that we're highlighting some of the great volleyball and soccer teams first before we transition into football, which was a full slate again. Where do you want to start, Logan? I mean, there was a lot of interesting results to talk about. Yeah,
and when we start getting in here, I think we start seeing now so-and-so is beating so-and-so, and so we're learning a little more about so-and-so. And so I'll start and just say that I might be wrong on my pick for 2A. I took Nampa Christian boldly. They go over to Fruitland and kind of get pushed around, 47-18. Not the best game for them in that one, and they're coming off Fruitland played Melba really tight the week before. It was 2016, I believe. And so right there we see a big win for Fruit. You kind of start to, like we said, piece these people, put the pieces together. Fruitland has a tight win against Melba, but then goes and just blows out really Nampa Christian. And so you say, are we seeing maybe that Melba is what we thought they were in the past? And maybe we were a little too premature on that. I don't know. We'll still have to see how it shakes out when it gets into conference play. You just never know when it gets in there. But in that game, for Fruitland, we'll talk about them for a minute in that game. They had a great game. Luke Baranaga was 7 for 10. He only had to throw 7 times to win that game. Only threw for 94 yards, but had 2 touchdowns. And then David Juarez, 10 rushes for 154 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's 15 yards a carry. That's incredible. Like every time he picks up the ball, he's getting a first down and 3 touchdowns. So 30% of his carries were for a touchdown. So just a great effort from David Juarez in that game for Fruitland. Just they're showing that they belong. Those are 2 teams that we both thought were going to be very good. I know it's 2A, 3A, but we liked Melba, even though we thought maybe they weren't going to come out with it this year. Nobody was saying, well, Melba's bad. But then Nampa Christian, I thought highly of them, and then they just roll through them. So, you got to look out now for Fruitland to compete there in the 3A SRV too.
Yeah, I think we focus so much on Weiser and Homedale, and Fruitland kind of maybe feels slighted a little bit. They're actually have had a lot of success over the past several seasons as well. And Weiser's 2-0, Homedale is 2-0, Fruitland is 2-0. Homedale beat Ontario, Oregon 54-8 in an absolute runaway. And Weiser outlasted Emmett in a shootout, the 4A runner-up from a year ago, 34-20. So I'm telling you, Logan, we thought the WIC was going to be really good for the 2A this year. Maybe the SRV is going to be even better.
Yeah, and I do think those 2 teams are kind of the one. Those 3 teams are kind of starting to show that they are the class of 3A. I think that we're seeing Sugar. They're down this year. They've lost 2 games. When have we not? It's been years since they lost 2 total games. Is this somebody else's turn? I think I came out and said I liked Gooding in the 3A a couple weeks ago, and but it's somebody else's time. This is the year. I think it's somebody else's turn. I think. Sugar, of course, they lost to a team from Utah, and then they lost to Shelley, who's a 4A. So they were playing up a little bit and out, so we don't really know. But I just think the reign is over. Every dynasty dies down eventually to some degree, and Homedale has been inches from it multiple times, 3 years in a row from getting that. And maybe this is the year. If they, like you said, they go and hammer Ontario. And that was one, it's interesting because they didn't play Caldwell we thought they were going to blow Caldwell out, and then Caldwell was close, but then Caldwell goes and gets run over by Boise. So we could play this game all day of, well, so-and-so beat so-and-so, but it's just looking like that 3A SRV is going to have somebody come out of it. I think somebody's going to end up playing on Championship Saturday for sure.
Yeah, and bouncing back to the WIC just for a second, we may be thinking Melba is the best team, but in terms of record, they're 0-2. They've played 2 pretty tough opponents.
They lost to North Fremont, and there's no shame in that. That the Huskies they've also had a very just strong run for the last couple of years. So it'll be a tough hole to dig out of. But here's one thing I want to hit on. So Melba is 2-0 or 0-2, right? But they have losses to Fruitland and to North Fremont. So how does this going to compare? Let's look at New Plymouth on the other end. New Plymouth is 2-0. They have wins against Parma and Payette. So they have 2 wins, but against teams that might beat each other this year. One will beat the other, and will they win many more games? Probably not, unfortunately, for those 2 teams. They're just both of those 2 teams traditionally struggle, and it seems to be the way this year. But how's that going to shake out when it comes to the rankings at the end of the year? When those Max Prep rankings come out, are they going to respect those 2 losses that Melba had to Fruitland and to North Fremont more than? And I think that Melba will get in conference and do very well. But it'll be interesting to see how those weigh out. If their records are very similar through conference play, how will that shake out?
We saw this movie last year. The same thing happened to New Plymouth last year, right? They went 5-3 and didn't make the playoffs, which is ludicrous to think about. But it's gonna force teams to schedule tougher opponents, regardless of what classification it is.
Right.
And then I just wanted to touch on Cole Valley Christian, my preseason pick to win the WIC. Yeah. They are 2-0, a 16-0 win over Nissa. Again, at the Oregon schools, I believe this was their first week of competition. So kind of like Utah was a step ahead of Idaho. Idaho's a step ahead of Oregon. So it's kind of hard to really gauge those cross-state games. But Cole Valley's 2-0, and that's really all that counts, right?
Yeah, and I think next week is where we're going to get the big, right? That it's next week that they're going to West Side, I believe. So the next week or the week after.
Yeah, I believe it's. I have
to look it up, but I think that's where we're going to see some. That might be the game of the year.
Yeah,
it might be in the 2A non-conference schedule. It might be a preview of the state championship. It's got a very, very good possibility to be that. And then, of course, Firth played West Side very tightly, and talk about a crazy ending in that game. If you're over here and didn't hear about the ending over there, but West Side trailed with a couple seconds left and scored a touchdown to go ahead of Firth, and then they go up 6, and then they kick off with a second left on the clock, and Firth runs it back for a touchdown, and then they miss they don't make the conversion, so it goes to overtime and West Side wins. But man, that would have been a crazy game, and it's going to be mumbled at the top. I think West Side's going to be there, and now Firth is looking extremely strong, and I think they just absolutely hammered Soda Springs last week too. So, these Melba, Nampa Christian, Cole Valley, they got a lot to look out for on the other side as well. But in that New Plymouth game, of course, New Plymouth beat Payette 24-16, and Casey Aratola, he only threw the ball 3 times, completed 2 of them. One was a touchdown, and he only threw for 66 yards. His only incompletion was an interception. So you're not throwing the ball a rock. But then on the other side, Skyler Rodriguez, he carried the ball 15 times for 76 yards. So not bad for the Pilgrims there for Rodriguez, and Aratola on the ground or through the air with his 2 passes that were complete. But you do what you do, and you don't got to do more than score more points than the other team. Doesn't matter how it comes. So
that's right. That Cole Valley West Side matchup, Logan. I'm going to be there broadcasting it for IdahoSports.com. That's going to be.
I'm a little jealous. I think that'll be a great one. Yeah. So if you're a Cole Valley fan, be on the lookout for that. That'll be right here, and Brandon will have it for you.
Yeah.
That should be a great game. That'll be fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Have you done a game there at West Side?
Yeah, so I did the quarterfinal game last year when they played Grangeville in the 2A quarterfinals. So
yeah, we went there. Me and Paul went there for the semis, and it started to snow this way at halftime, and it was cold. It was cold, but it was fun.
It was a crazy night for sure. What about these 1A scores? The game that really stood out to me at the 1A level, Logan, was the matchup between Wilder and Horseshoe Bend. Horseshoe Bend only got out of there with a 28-20 win. Yeah, and Wilder gave him a little bit of a challenge last year too. But this is where I was willing, and I said it on our opening preview. I said I need to see defense from Wilder. They go and they shut out Salmon River, and Horseshoe Bend is really good. There is no shame in losing to them by a touchdown. Especially when you're a team that's kind of up and coming, and to hold them to 28 points. And look, they scored 2 defensive touchdowns. Moises Perez had a 60-yard pick 6 for Wilder. You got to do what you got to do, and they can force. They had a fumble return for a touchdown too, and they have a huge game against Cary
this week, and this will really show us where Wilder is. But I'm honestly, I'm very excited. I'm going to be there for that game, and I think it's going to be a lot better than people thought. It's going to be a lot better than I personally thought after seeing them, the way they played Horseshoe Bend, the way they were able to keep it tight and keep it close. Looking at the stats, Moises Perez, he had a 31-yard touchdown run. He ran for 97 yards. He had 87 yards against Salmon River, and on the season, he's carrying for 100. He's got 184 yards on the ground, and last year he only had 281. So he's almost at his total from last year. And that was kind of the question, was who's going to step up for Wilder? Who's going to make that step? And Moises Perez, he made a step. He made a big step. He's 14.2 yards per carry. He's averaging through his 2 games. That's big. So we'll see. I'm kind of excited to see how it'll shake out. I still probably think that Carey's gonna come away with that one, but I'm excited to see what Wilder can do. I think that if they can force turnovers like they did against Horseshoe Bend, that they're going to be right there. I think that's a key. Turnovers and then taking advantage of them, which they did. They scored 2 defensive touchdowns in that game, and that's what you're going to have to do against a team like Carey that has been in the state championship 4 years in a row. It doesn't matter what 1A division they're in. They're just extremely good. So it'll be a fun game over in Wilder Friday night.
Yeah, and that game kicks off at 7:00 on idahosports.com. Live free video broadcast of Wilder hosting Carey. That is going to be a tremendous matchup. Quickly, the other 1A scores from last week that we had, Salmon River taking on New Meadows. First game for New Meadows in about 20 years. And Salmon River is a program that struggles with numbers. And you could tell that New Meadows, talking to their coach, Jared McElvain, he said, because of injuries and things, guys not getting enough practices in, they only had about 9 guys for that game. And so they were a little shorthanded. Salmon River, a big win, 60-0. But I thought that was a fun game for both of those schools, especially Salmon River struggling with numbers the past couple of years. Garden Valley's 0-2, but you can't really, they played Carey and then Dietrich.
Yeah, it's not fair. It's not a fair assessment. That's, it's funny because I was talking to Dusty Simpson. He's one of the assistant coaches for Carey. His son is Connor, plays on, he scores a gazillion touchdowns all the time. But he was just asking me, he's like, what do you think of some of the teams out there? And I'm like, Dietrich, until somebody knocks them off, they're still the champs. And, he was talking about how Garden Valley had to, how did they luck into that after losing everybody they had? Garden Valley's they're trying to figure out who they are right now after losing all that talent and just to open up with those 2 teams. That's a surefire word. That's getting baptism by fire. Is that what they say? They just throwing them right in there, say, good luck, guys, figure it out. So, oh man. So Garden Valley, I think you'll start to see them do a little bit better over the next couple weeks, playing teams that are not Carey and are not Dietrich. That seems to be how most people do. They do a little bit better when they don't play those 2 teams. Those 2 teams just it's fine. I was looking at Carey's record over the last 4 years today. The only team that ever plays them close is Dietrich. Unless it's a state tournament. So they know their teams and they know how to beat them. But yeah, I going back to the Salmon River Meadows Valley game. Just kudos to them. I know it's got to be tough to hang out there and get beat like that, but you only had 9 players, and they'll come around. You got to look for the small things. And I was listening to the Prepcast where with you, Paul, and Will talking about the game and what they had a couple of touchdowns maybe called back by penalties, and so they had some bright spots to look forward to and say, hey, if we can fix this next time, we'll be all right.
Yeah, that was on the Idaho 8-man Prepcast each week, where we're breaking down statewide, all the 8-man action that you need to know, part of the Prepcast network here at idahosports.com. If you want to see all the Prepcasts we do, it's on the homepage at idahosports.com. Across the top of the navigation bar, it says Prepcasts, and then there's a drop-down menu with all of the podcasts that we offer. And then the last game I wanted to touch on, Notice gonna notice. That's all I'm saying. Another big win, 54-12 over Council. I think Notice is going to kind of romp through the regular season like they did last year.
Yep.
And then we won't really know where they ultimately stand in the statewide picture until the playoffs arrive.
Yeah. And I'm like I said, I'm prepping for my game against Wilder or for Wilder Carey. So I'm looking over at Wilder's schedule. And after this Carey game, I'm just looking at the conference. And I think it's going to be Notice and Wilder are at this point, from what I've seen, again, we'll see how Rimrock is when they start playing more people and, Greenleaf and everybody else, but in Idaho City. But based on what I've seen, I think it's going to be Wilder and Notice that might be undefeated in conference going into that game with a home playoff game on the line, right? For the winner of that conference. So we'll see how that one shakes up. But I think those two are on a collision course to meet in that, that week, possibly undefeated in conference. But like you said, I mean, Carter Woodland, 335 yards and 5 touchdowns. He's
doing all right.
Yeah, he's fine. They're good. Just a phenomenal effort once again. And yeah, Notice I don't know if anybody's going to stop him. And this is the thing. Last year we saw the same thing. They kind of rolled through it, but then they met Lighthouse Christian and it was just way too much to handle. So we'll see if they're any different in that regard this year, if they'll be able to handle that and playing against other people. So, and that's why I like Wilder going out and playing a Carey, going like stepping out and saying we're going to play someone tough. Because when they get to that first round of the playoffs, they won't be shocked. It won't be a shock to them to see somebody. And Notice is playing Horseshoe Bend this weekend. That's another game to watch this weekend or to keep your eye on if you're a fan. But that should be a great game. And that's where Notice is going to find out a lot about themselves. We know that Horseshoe Bend's good. They've made the playoffs. They've won playoff games. They've gone on the road playing up in Mullen last year. But they're good, and they're back this year. Horseshoe Bend, I think they're great. So we'll see how Notice compares to a Horseshoe Bend, and I think that game will be a good gauge to see where the Pirates are at.
Yeah, you were reading my mind, Logan, because that's exactly where I was going to go next, was that Notice Horseshoe Bend matchup. I think that, along with the Carey Wilder game, are the clear two best games in the Treasure Valley this week. Do you have a third? Can we preview one more matchup? Yeah,
so it'll be interesting. Again, we don't know too much about the Oregon teams, but Melba plays Nissa this week. Cole Valley played them last week, so I'm curious to see how the results compare. Right, Cole Valley, it was tight. I mean, it was 16-0 for Cole Valley. So we'll see how Melba does, and maybe again, you can't really say that. Well, so and so beat so and so by 30, and we only beat them by 1. You can't make that comparison. I don't think it equals out, but I mean, it does tell us a little bit. And so it'll be interesting to see how that one shakes out. And then if I had one more, Payette and Marsing, I know, but Marsing went over and blew Valley out last week. I think it was like they put 70 points up on Valley or something like that. So we'll see how they shake out playing up against a team like Payette. So
Marsing went to Wendell and
Wendell
beat Wendell.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of something else.
So Marsing beat Valley in week 1, 48-6.
Sorry,
they lost to Wendell 49-0. So
yes, sorry, I'm thinking of how they beat Valley in week 1, but I'm just curious to see how they seem a little bit better than they were last year by going and beating Valley, and we'll see. Payette, they haven't had a great season so far, so we'll see if maybe they can get something rolling on, and if Marsing's able to win that game, do they maybe go into conference with a little bit more momentum. One of those two teams, I think whoever wins that game might go into conference with a little more momentum. Just something to look out for the teams that maybe aren't looking at playoff aspirations as much, but potential playoffs if they can sneak out and somehow turn their seasons around or prove everybody wrong. Everybody likes that, right? When somebody can prove them wrong. So look to see who can come out between Payette and Marsing, and maybe they can take it into conference play as the season goes along.
Yeah, for sure. And then the last game I want to touch on that I've got an eye on is Weiser hosting Grangeville. That's a 3A hosting a 2A. Weiser, we know 2-0. Grangeville is a team that's expected to win their conference up north. They're 0-2, but they played Moscow in week 1, which is a 4A, so a 2A versus a 4A, and they only lost that game 16-8. So I mean, they were right in it.
Yeah.
Last week, I'm not going to lie, they got smoked by Bonners Ferry 53-0. And I know Coach Adams at Grangeville wasn't very happy after that game. There was a lot of unsportsmanlike conduct penalties against his team. And he basically told the newspaper, the Lewiston Tribune, we kind of lost our heads there at the end. And that's unacceptable. So I know they're going to be refocused.
Dialed in.
And really, Weiser, it's going to be a tough matchup. And I don't know. It'll tell me a lot about Grangeville. And maybe not as much about Weiser, but so that's kind of why I'm interested in that one too. But
yeah, no, it'll be good. I think just seeing Weiser period is good. The way they beat, going and beating Emmett, it's tough, man. It's they're good, and I think they're the real deal. I think they've taken that step. I think beating Emmett really opened everybody's eyes and saying, we thought that you were good, but now you just proved it. I think they put themselves on the map legitimately by beating Emmett. And now that they're going to have a target on their back, Grangeville would love nothing more than to, after getting smoked like that, come down the Highway 95 and hop off in Weiser and knock them off. Or is that game in Weiser or is it in Grangeville? Where is it?
It's in Weiser.
It's in Weiser. All right. So they're playing in Weiser. Yeah, I'm sure they'd love nothing more than to bounce back from that by beating somebody. They have a huge target on their back now. Weiser does.
Yeah, big sign that says "hit the pinata" right here. So
that's right. That's right.
Yeah. All right.
It'll be a great week. I'm excited for another week of football and all the other sports going on. And so I think you guys are going over to do some cross country. Is that right? This weekend?
Yes. So we are going to be broadcasting the Tiger Grizz Invitational, one of the biggest cross-country meets of the season in Idaho Falls on Friday. They're going to run 2 heats of girls varsity, 2 heats of boys varsity starting at 2:50 p.m. on Friday. And we'll be there for all 4 varsity heats. They're kind of splitting it up between the bigger schools. 5A, 4A is going to run 1 heat, and then 3A, 2A, 1A is going to run the second heat. Most of it is Eastern Idaho schools. There are some teams that are traveling from District 3, the Boise area, specifically, Rocky Mountain and Owyhee, 5A schools. Bishop Kelly's going to come over and compete, and Nampa Christian is coming over to run. And of all the competitors at this meet, Logan, it's a runner from Nampa Christian that has the best time coming in. In fact, the last time I checked, it was the best time in the state so far for boys cross country in Idaho. And it's really fascinating to watch Grady Mylander. I really noticed him last year during the track season in the distance races. Grady is a senior at Nampa Christian, and so far his best time has been 15 minutes, 36.1 seconds. That's awesome for Grady Mylander from Nampa Christian. Yeah,
there's no way I could run that quickly at all. I'd literally die if I did that. That's a great effort. So Nampa Christian, there you go. Little 2A team from over here in District 3 heading over to the big race over in Idaho Falls. That should be a good one, Brandon.
Yeah. So
I'll make sure I'll have it on, while I'm working Friday,
Right. So if I were giving out the one of my 3 stars, I would definitely give one to Grady Mylander. But Logan, you are the one that hands out the 3 stars. Yeah. So who really stood out to you this past? I'm sure it was hard. There was a lot of good performances. This is something we do every week here on the Treasure Valley Prepcast, where Logan hands out 3 stars to 3 athletes that really went above and beyond.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with, we talked about him earlier, one of the stars to David Juarez from Fruitland, 10 carries, 154 yards, and 3 touchdowns. If that's not worthy of a star, I don't know what is. A great effort by him. And then I'm also going to give one to Moises Perez from Wilder. He had a great game. I know Wilder lost, but he ran for 87 yards. He had a 31-yard touchdown run, 97 yards on the ground, and then he had a 60-yard pick six. Great game, Moises Perez. I'm excited to see him play this weekend. He's all over the place. He's also the leading tackler on the team, like 26 tackles or something like that in his 2 games. So just a great effort, Moises Perez, another star of the week. And then finally, to wrap it up, we talked about it earlier, but Abby Robideau from Fruitland Soccer, 16 goals over the last 4 games. Or I believe over the last 4 games, and 16 goals, 7 assists, and including a 5-goal game once again against Weiser in an 8-1 win. So again, that final star, Abby Robideau from, again, if I'm saying the name wrong, please, Abby, forgive me. But you had a great week, 5 goals against Weiser. Just what an effort there by her.
And if you are a fan or a parent and you have an athlete that you think should be considered for one of Logan's stars, you can send either one of us an email. You can send it to Logan at idahosports.com or Brandon at idahosports.com, and I'll pass it on to Logan. Because that's what we want to hear from you, the fans.
Yeah, send me whatever. Sometimes I just can't get all the stuff. We don't. Sometimes it's just not public. Sometimes it's not online. And so when coaches put their stuff online and I can get it super easily, then I'm able to recognize people. And it's not because if there's somebody that scored 12 goals in a game, like I said, let me know, please. It just haven't been brought to my attention. So it's hard to keep up with every single little thing. So you said, Brandon, if you've got a phenomenal highlight that we need to show everybody, send it to us. We'll put it up. If you've got a great stat, somebody had a great volleyball game, send it over. We'll talk about it. We just can't get to everything, and we want to share every story possible. So like you said, my email is Logan at idahosports.com, and then Brandon, yours is just Brandon at Idaho Sports, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just let us know. Would love to get anybody that recognition they deserve.
Yeah, it's going to be another fantastic week of competition coming up. I think the best matchup that I'm most looking forward to is not a football game. It's that Weiser Sun Valley Community School soccer matchup. I
think that should be a dandy. It's too bad we couldn't be there for that game, to be honest. That would have been good. And I think it's at Sun Valley, so it would have been even better. A trip to Sun Valley, right, to do that game. That would have been fun.
My wife has to go to the Sun Valley for a work retreat next week, so she'll be.
Have you been there? Have you?
I've never been, so.
It's fun. We went over there. They were having some deals back in the winter, I think, because people weren't going because of COVID, and they had like this Idaho resident deal, and it was so low. So me and my wife went over there, and somebody came and stayed with our kids, and it was fun. It was great. They have this, like, if you stay at the Sun Valley Inn or Lodge, they have these like huge pools that are heated, and so it was snowing, and you can be in the pool, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
but
for sure. Well,
there's a lot of good places to eat too. Anyways, we don't need to keep talking about Ketchum and Sun Valley, but it's a fun place. Yeah,
Scott Burton's going to be mad. We're invading his turf, the Magic Valley Prepcast.
I know we won't talk about it anymore.
Yeah, well,
we'll cut it.
Yeah, that'll end up on the cutting room floor.
Should stop at the Snow Bunny Drive-In, right? They're always a great sponsor of Idaho Sports.
Yes.
Every time I drive through there on the way out of town, I try to stop at the Snow Bunny.
Yeah, we love our loyal advertisers and sponsors for idahosports.com, and they're definitely one of them. So that'll do it for this edition of the Treasure Valley Prepcast. You can get the audio for this Prepcast at our site, idahosports.com, or wherever you download your podcasts. You can also catch the video version of this. If you want to see the video, you can go to the idahosports.com YouTube channel or the Facebook page. Logan, is it Jacksonville Jaguars jersey? Is that Trevor Lawrence? What do you got going on?
No, it's the color is just off, and it's my McCaffrey.
Oh, Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, it's game week, man. So let's do it. We got the Jets week 1, so we're going to be 1-0 here. We're going to be undefeated, and we're just going to end the season right there. 1-0, undefeated.
Yeah, Sam Darnold
So-
might retire off into the sunset after beating his old team, right?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting playing his old team and then Zach Wilson coming in. It should be fun. I'm excited. Yeah, I'm obviously a big Panthers fan, so
Yeah.
excited to see all the new changes. It's basically a new team. So
Yeah. All right. Well, I can't believe I thought that was Jacksonville Jaguars.
the color looks off in the screen.
Yeah.
It looks like Jacksonville's colors, but it's more blue in real life.
Yeah. All right. Well, for Logan Green, I'm Brandon Baney. Enjoy college football, high school football, NFL football. It's the best time of year. We're turning the corner on summer, headed into fall, and we'll have plenty to talk about again next week on the Treasure Valley Prepcast from idahosports.com.